kumadiare kungai anji yango makea yawa ida mad mota mau na mau ya mangem ke ondumwa mama ya salo kumadiare kungai anji yango makea yawa ida mad mota mau na mau ya tengo de kundaga tigo kata bulolo malang yang kebamba kudo so kademau iya mademau mau reto sotani atau sojitu.
Alors, Dr Dorothy Williams est une historienne spécialisée dans l'histoire des Noirs canadiens. Ça, je pense que nous allons le comprendre au fur et à mesure que nous allons arpenter le long de ce mur. Et elle est auteure de plusieurs livres et a contribué à de nombreuses publications universitaires. Son premier livre, sans surprise, Blacks in Montreal, a été écrit à la demande de la Commission des droits et de la personne du Québec en 1989, dans le cadre de leur étude sur le racisme dans le marché du logement à Montréal. Dr Williams a grandi dans la communauté historique, la communauté noire, située à la Petite Bourgogne à Montréal. Elle a acquis plus de 20 ans d'expérience de travail et de bénévolat au sein de la communauté et intervient régulièrement auprès d'organisations avec qui elle partage son expertise qu'elle a d'ailleurs mise au service de la bibliothèque Atwater. Elle est actuellement responsable des opérations et du développement du Fonds d'Esta Black Youth Network. Ses intérêts et ses services se situent dans les domaines de l'histoire, de l'identité, de la race, du genre, du soutien aux familles, du logement, de l'autonomisation, de l'intervention anti-gang, de l'entrepreneuriat et de l'éducation. Donc on voit là une femme qui allie la vie théorique à travers les livres qu'elle écrit, les concepts qu'elle met à jour, et également son engagement concret pour des causes concrètes, utiles, vitales au service de la communauté. Madame Williams, Dr Williams, la parole est à vous.
Introduction, c'est bon. I'm going to try and say this with my mask on. I think you can hear me? Okay. So, this won't be long. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends and friends who are family. All I can say is, wow. What a moment in my life to look into this room and see my supporters, of those who treasured my dream and really wished me well. A couple of times this week I said that I'm humbled by this message of pride and celebration that is evident in the room here. We didn't start off with the idea of this museum featuring my life, my story, or my impact. Out of many conversations, a dream was planted. I hesitated, but when the rightness of it became obvious, Guy said, "You started it all, and you framed it all for Quebec to see and understand." Guess I couldn't argue that point. He insisted, this is what we must do. And for that leap of faith and vote of confidence, I have to say thank you to Guy and to the team here who helped to shepherd me. so they could create what you see around you. As we met right here, and I shared my stories with the team, and you know, I like to share stories, they responded with enthusiasm and encouraged me to bring more representations of my stories and elements that could help them to describe the context of my life. They asked, "What does this mean? Why this? Who are these people?" That every time I shared something, I realized how pivotal each element was, because each one fleshed out the richness of my life. I have done many things in my life. What you have seen are the milestones and signposts of that journey that I was on to open people's eyes to the rich history around them. Tonight, this moment is further confirmation that much of what I've been trying to say has been heard. It has been heard by the community and by the many faces in this room. You know, I thought I'd walk you through each theme, but in reality, that is what you came to do, to see and walk through key aspects of my career and the impact of what I've tried to achieve in sharing Black history with you and with Canadians across the country. Still, I would be remiss, because there are so many others along the way who bolstered me and encouraged the vision that came with me. That is, to change the narrative in Canada. It's really no simpler than that. I knew I belonged. I took hold of that identity as a young Black child. I was Canadian. I would not let anyone take that away from me, despite their ignorance and disbelief. And so every step along the way was to refute and to assert my own agency and that of my community. At the same time, in telling my story, I'm telling their story. That is a Canadian story that has been hidden, known only to a few. Today, we have many young scholars actively working to diffuse these stories. Almost 40 years ago, most times, I walked it alone. I have always been quick to say I'm from Little Burgundy, and although I didn't use that appellation for the longest time, I was very proud of the community which had nurtured me as I was growing. Here I would include the community institutions around me. By the time I was born, the Negro Community Center was at 2035 Cursal. I grew up running through its halls, chasing friends up and down the stairs, playing music with Daisy Sweeney standing behind me, learning how to tap with Olga, how to cook with Mrs. Mackenzie, and soaking in African legends we shared together. Here is where I was able to pull it so much together. It was also a community of faith, and I attended many neighborhood places of worship and reflection. I think of Welcome Hall and of Union United Church and of the gospel halls that used to be on the north side of St. Antoine Street before the Ville-Marie Expressway took them down. We played hide and seek in the back lanes of Bannockburn and Elgin. Yes, these places I remember fondly as being critical for my formation. But the guidance directed towards me cannot be forgotten, because there were individuals who impressed upon me to be the best that I could be and to keep dreaming. Who were they? Too many to mention. However, I can fondly recall the snippets of conversations with Julie Samuels, Martha Griffiths, Betty Riley, Viola Walton, Anne Packwood, and May Ruth Sarsfield, so many others, like my mother, my grandmother, and Pat, who in 1989 pushed me to complete Blacks in Montreal. This triumph is for you. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm a product of my community. And I took on the role to be the storyteller, to demonstrate that there are many voices in this country, and they also deserve to be heard. Tonight, in many ways, this is the fulfillment of a dream realized in a way I couldn't have imagined 20 or 30 years ago. The Afromusée will bring together, for the first time in Quebec, many stories of history and community in ways Quebecers have never experienced before. The first Black museum is something we should all be proud of. It allows us to tell the story of the African diaspora in Montreal. And over time, as these connections and threads thicken, the opportunities for our collective story to encompass the entire island will emerge. I say that because Black history is not limited to the Southwest. It embraces the uniqueness of the island and the Black presence in far-flung regions of the province. I say that because in identifying this diaspora, we need to acknowledge in Quebec the historic traces throughout the province that gave evidence to Black footprints everywhere. And as the next generation searches for that evidence, this museum will take up the call, and its threads will thicken as they string out to places beyond the island. For me, this is a perfect example of history being alive in our present time and why I embrace Sankofa. I might have been the first to go and fetch it, but there will be others who will take this on. Of that, I have no doubt, because as I teach, I see the hunger in the younger generation. A museum like this will inspire. It will feed them with more stories and more investigations, bringing more recognition and affirmation. I will not be the only one to embrace all that is Canadian. If evidence of my life and the power of history can achieve this, I will then say, I have done good. In a final nod to this inaugural night, je suis heureuse de dire que votre croyance en la puissance de mon travail n'a fait qu'approfondir ma détermination à continuer à me battre, à faire des recherches et à raconter des histoires. Ton regard me donne de la force. Merci.
Mangem ke ondumwa Mama salo kumajare kungai Anji yango make ayawa Idamad motamau Namau ya Mangem ke ondumwa Mama salo kumajare